Well, as we all know, that report to Congress came and went. There was a lot of hype over it and a lot of speculation of what it may or may not confirm. Prior to it being available to the public, higher-ups who had already seen the document had anonymously told sources there was no indication of any extraterrestrial life, but they also wouldn't rule out the possibility. As we know, a big concern for the majority of those in the government pushing for this document were rooted in fear that the UFOs could be the work of foreign adversaries. Two countries whose names were continuously being brought up were China and Russia. I guess the US doesn't realize how much of a threat their northern neighbors are. You know, we got snowballs and maple syrup up here, eh? So be careful there, bud. Today on LBQ, we're asking, what if the Pentagon UFOs are not aliens? Smash that like button and let's get into it, baby. Aliens. Now, given that the US government is finally taking UFO sightings seriously isn't a step in the right direction. It's an entire movement. For the longest time, anyone who made any mention of UFOs or aliens or flying saucers were immediately written off. Oh, they're crazy. You actually believe in that stuff? Come on, man. That's usually what people would say. That was like my best impression. I'm an actor, so hopefully it was okay for you guys. Then the government gives the green light that UFOs are real and confirms out of the 144 they have confirmed seen, they have no idea what or two 143 of them were. The one sighting they could confirm was a deflating balloon, which was mistaken for a UFO. But the others, all 143 sightings, which were just the confirmed sightings that we know about, are still a big old question mark. Naturally, leading up to this release of the incredible UFO report, people were expecting answers, and it seems what they got is actually more questions. Now, if you get to check out the report, I would highly recommend doing so, but I'll summarize it in a paragraph or so to the best of my abilities, which I would check it out. The government confirmed over the last decade and a half or so, since 2004, there have been 144 sightings of flying objects, which they did not know what they were or who was controlling them. As previously mentioned, one of the objects was confirmed to be a balloon, while the other 143 are still to be determined. The report claimed all the sightings would be broken down into one of 5 categories, including, I quote, airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomena, USG or US industry developmental programs, foreign adversary systems, and a catch-all other bin. But they also made mention that these aircrafts, I quote, may pose a challenge to US national security. And the report also made mention of the 2 previously mentioned countries, specifically saying, I quote, some UAP may be technologies deployed by China, Russia, another nation, or a non-governmental entity, which is pretty much their way of saying it could be anyone in the world or aliens. So all in all, we pretty much got duped by the US government, who after decades have finally admitted they know UFOs exist, but just like us, they have absolutely no idea what they're dealing with. At least, as far as we're concerned. Now, as we've seen in the past, the government tends to say things and then years later either get exposed for not telling the whole truth or lying. Other times, the government exposes themselves, revealing truths on old classified documents and such, declassifying them when they feel the time's right, and allowing the general public to know more than previously available. As we saw with the Roswell incident, due to security reasons, and so the Russian government wouldn't catch on, the US government lied about the weather balloon mistaken for a UFO, as it really was a new type of tech that the US government was trying to test out in order to spy on Russia. All I'm saying is, like, you know, who knows if things are really different this time around, so. And this, of course, leads me to my next point of maybe it is Russia or China. Now, I'm not pointing any fingers here, but it's been evident over the years that the US feels Russia and China are 2 countries who are closing in alongside the US as being the most powerful nation in the world. Whether that means having the strongest military capabilities, the newest technology, the best medicine, and so on, it seems when speaking of superpower countries, the 3 names that often ring a bell are the US, China, and Russia. So naturally, when it comes to dealing with new types of technology, and even seeing things with their own eyes that we've never thought were possible, well, I wouldn't be all that surprised if one of these 3 countries were responsible, or so we initially thought. And if that was the case, why wouldn't the US government just outright say that? Well, it depends who's responsible. If it's a foreign adversary, such as, let's say, Russia or China, it'd be due to the fact that the US government doesn't want to let on more than they actually know. Maybe the US government has been aware of these technologies for a while, and have even started to study them, deconstruct them, and potentially engineer their own. Given that this is considered a threat to US national security, rather than incite panic and fear among their citizens, it's possible they decide to handle the situation in their own way, whatever that means, without getting the general public involved. And of course, decades later, they'll admit to what actually happened and why they did what they did, claiming it was for the greater good of the nation and their people. America! And speaking of America, what if they're in fact responsible for these technologies in which they claim they have no clue what they are? Talk about a plot twist. Again, as we've seen, the government hasn't always kept it 100% with us, and it's possible this is some highly classified work in which maybe only 3 or 4 people in the entire world, likely working for the US government, know about. What I'm saying is, maybe the US government is responsible for these UFOs and they don't even know about it yet. Talk about a twist. Like I said, where's M. Night Shyamalan? You know that? What a twist! If you guys watched our video on the Pentagon's secret army, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. There are plenty of high classified divisions of the government that very few know about, and they could be potentially operating UFOs without other divisions of the government even knowing who or what they are. Now, if it turns out everything I just said is incorrect and it's not China or Russia or the US who are responsible, but potentially another country, that too would be very interesting. It would also be somewhat scary, and not much different than if it were Russia or China. If anything, I think it may be scarier because that would mean said country is advancing either at a rate we never thought was possible, or they've been really good at keeping secrets for quite some time. You know, to the point that literally no other country knew they were capable of this technology, which is like impossible. You know, these things get leaked all the time. Either way, it would lead to potential fear of what else they're potentially capable of. Now, the most fun and least logical explanation here is that this is in fact a new species that we've created. After our many years on Earth mixing chemicals and metal and nukes and bombs, and you get it. And I know it sounds mystical, and that's kind of what my point is. This is a what-if question, so the possibilities are actually endless. I just try to keep it logical, but, you know, we gotta have some fun with it too. So, what if we created these machine-like aquatic and airborne animals, which move in ways we never thought were possible? That would be pretty crazy in my eyes. And I don't mean create in a lab like we made them physically, but more so after years of doing what humans do, climate change and pollution and all this and all that, somehow these things formed into what they've become, potentially starting out as bacteria and evolving over thousands of years. Now again, yes, this sounds absolutely insane and I don't think it's really a possibility, more so just having fun at this point. The reality is no one knows who or what is responsible for these things. Jack Weinstein, an international security professor at Boston University and a former US Air Force Lieutenant General, said, I quote, "If a foreign power had technology that could operate that fast, take turns that aerodynamically, it really shouldn't be able to happen that we would see that in operation during a conflict." Which is a very good point. Why would they just do this out of the blue and not when they actually need it the most? He went on to say, I quote, "And if a foreign power was actually testing really high-tech equipment, they would be testing high-tech equipment in a protected area of their country that the United States or other foreign powers couldn't see. If you get something that secret that can work that well, you're not going to show anybody until you absolutely need it." And that, again, is a very fair point. Like, if this was the work of Russia, why would they show us? Just to be like, look what I have that you don't. And now it's like, okay, well now we're aware of it, so now we can figure out how to stop it. You get what I'm saying? Good point. Merrick von Rennenkampf, who worked in the Pentagon and dealt with international security, explained that if this was the work of an adversary, both the US intelligence would have failed and the country would have made a significant leap in their tech, which he found both highly unlikely. I quote, "China has well-documented issues with basic jet engines. They rely on espionage to develop their most advanced weapons systems. So I struggle with China having developed this. Russia has a defense budget that is a fraction of the United States, and much of its military infrastructure is crumbling, so I struggle with that too. So if it is China or Russia, then that's extraordinary." Extraordinary. Extraordinary? Doesn't mean it can't be them, just seems highly unlikely. And if that's the case, then really, who could be responsible for this? Seriously, I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Who do you guys think the UFOs could be, if not aliens? Another country? What else if not? Let me know your thoughts down below. For now, let's do some comment replies from the video. What if Russia and Britain started World War III? Dan again, Valerie said, "As someone who lives in America, it feels weird to see a video that doesn't involve my country, but I like it. Yeah, it's nice to not be like America storms in with their guns and freedom and beer and patriotism and Lady Liberty." Terminator 156 said, "What if the Galactic Empire, Star Wars, started a war with modern Earth? I think we'd be done. Like, no nuke could go that far, and they would just blow us up in a heartbeat." Terry Booty said, "Can't we all just get along?" Reminds me of the song Why Can't We Be Friends by War. Is it by War? I think it's by War. Good song. Can't play it for copyright reasons, but check it out. Why Can't We Be Friends? Great song. Anti-war song. Good song. All right, guys. That's all for this one. I've been your boy Pepper. Stay spicy, and we'll see you soon.